Hello.
This is.
Got fed up with that room.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're just like, all right, is this going to get better? No, 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 no. Okay. And you
Hope
just get, sad because you can't like strangle them through the internet.
my pants. I didn't just kick him. I got rid of him. It had to be done.
He's just so annoying.
Mm-hmm. But you're not on cam, so he's not taking it out on you. Or maybe he has in the
He
past.
tried
I haven't
once,
seen
but,
it.
like he did his like thing once, and it didn't work, and so he just doesn't talk to me usually anymore.
How did it go for him?
What?
What was your response?
I don't remember, but it was just something about like, what do ENTP girls like, or something retarded like that.
I know.
I don't remember what I said, but I don't know. It worked. Like, it wasn't planned. I just responded in my normal fashion, but it was funny. So I'm pretty good at yeah. They're still annoying, even if they're not bugging me, even if they're not. Honestly, it would be more fun if he was bothering me specifically, because then I could bother him back and it would be a fight. But no, he
Yeah.
just ignore me.
I don't have patience for that. It's just annoying.
I usually just mute him. Like,
You do that?
like, all right, you're not saying anything constructive. You're just being a retard. So I just mute him.
It would be funny if I do that, because he starts with like just saying my name to get a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I should totally do that. Just see what happens. It would frustrate them.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Is don't. He doesn't care. He's not looking for a particular response. He just wants somebody to respond to him.
Yeah.
Or so.
Do you think he's ESFP?
I don't know. He doesn't strike me as, honestly. He doesn't strike me as extremely as all that intuitive, and it may just be his trolly act, but he certainly doesn't. Like, honestly, I was kind of interested. That's one of the reasons I play Cards Against Humanity with people every now and then. It's kind of interesting to see what they do. And he's very like literal and, obvious. And you're just like, well,
That's boring.
Like, literally, like I almost could predict every time what he was going to pick, and it wasn't. There were no layers to whatever he picked.
Yeah, just throw out the sex card and the point is yours.
Yeah, like, it doesn't even have to make any sort of sense at all. Like, it just like it was. Yeah, it's almost like he's looking at the cards. Like, I don't see a lot of any, honestly.
There isn't any. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's just like. Because, compared to him to like Zach number 2, or whichever one he is, the INTP Zach, like he's kind of a a pretty extroverted seeming INTP type person.
I know, but I haven't really seen anything that contradicts that he's an INTP other than that.
Who, Zach?
Yeah.
Or Steve? No, I think Zach makes sense. Like, it was. I'm just saying that, like, comparing that to like the idea of contemplating the same sort of. It's very different than like old Steve Older. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's. I don't know what he is, but he doesn't. Because I feel like I would like him more if he was an INTP. Because I don't seem to hate INTP. They can be annoying, but in a different way usually.
Who are you talking about now, Zach or Steve?
Steve.
Steve isn't INTP for shit. He's not ISTP either.
Yeah, I mean,
Eric tried to type him.
I don't look like SE there. Yeah.
He gave him 5 different TI questions, and he couldn't understand the question even. 5 different ones. So he must be ESFP, TI polar. I don't know. Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's in the beginning, like I gave him some slack for the theoretical language difference, but
He clearly understands the language. That's not it.
Yeah.
So he can't make that.
So.
I've seen him do
it several times. See a lot more I see a lot more like SE in there, for sure. I don't know.
Oh, I just remembered. I'll show you something. His behavior Yeah, but he reminds me of some behavior I've seen before. I'm gonna find it so you can see it. Reminds me of this person.
Clean it. Yeah, I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, I've kind of thought the same thing. Like there is like just the physical kind of, just the state of being. There is a
yeah, it's the same thing
that I've noticed. Yeah, like I said, it's a particular sort. It's just called annoying. Is that type? I don't know. It gets on my nerves more so than.
I'm gonna start kicking him more. No, seriously, he has gotten away with so much crap with his excuses of bad language and so on.
Well, he was in earlier today. I don't know if you were. I think it was today, and he was saying he's like, well, I usually come in here to troll or something. Like most of the time, I'm like, yeah, you do.
Makes sense.
It's one of those. It just doesn't seem to be particularly. Just doesn't seem not particularly engaged in any way.
He just comes in to throw out some shit and see what happens.
Yeah.
However, I think room 1 has cleared up now. Meaning, like, Chloe left and Loki left. So we have Spacey, Ken, Tim, and Pepsi. But Pepsi on his own can't make that much things. Want to go back?
I don't know. I'm kind of happy not being in there right now.
Okay.
I might go back in a little while.
Are you doing stuff or?
I don't know. I'm thinking I need to go make some coffee and then I need to go work on some stuff later. I'm procrastinating, into focus mode. I haven't quite got there yet.
I see. You should just make that coffee and get going.
Yeah, but it's not what I'm going to do.
I know, but that's like part 1. Do something you want. Part 2, boring shit.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. I know I need to sit down and do it, just knock it out, and so I'll probably drink some coffee and eat some more stuff, goof off for, I don't know, another hour or so, hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I'll get on it.
Right, I'll hop over. So I'll see you later then.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I may come in and go listen to some music and then make some coffee.
Okay, see ya.
All right, later.
is everyone quiet in the other
Did you say something?
room? I said, why is everyone quiet in the other room?
I don't know. Overwhelming introversion. It's an observable phenomenon.
I mean, it's not like I have anything to say. It's just...
We've gone so many hours without saying anything of, value that it's like, surely there's been some built-up insights to be explored, but I think we just wore everybody out.
Too much playing. Everyone's in nap time. Yeah, I really want to smoke, like, so badly, but... Ree!
Are you saying that I haven't paid attention, do you usually smoke? Are you saying that you don't smoke, or you just want to right now?
Smoke bud.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. It's like there's so many possible meanings for what you just said. I'm like, okay.
Nah, I want to smoke some crack. Just kidding.
I'm just kind of awaiting. Well, I'm kind of waiting to see what my teammates actually do on the project, so that I can not. If I wait for them to turn into my stuff, then I can, then I'll have a better idea of what all I have to do to make up for it, and so it's like, okay.
Well, also, you don't want to do too much stuff and then have someone else like do something that you did or whatever.
Exactly. Like, I'm aware I'm gonna have to do most of it. Whatever little bit I can.
Well, it's kind of easy. Like, if other people just can produce like anything at all, putting it all together is like super straightforward. I feel like just filling in the gaps. Like I find that way easier than trying to, I don't know, like do everything from like one consistent framework. Like sometimes it's easier just to like patchwork it in, and it can it can spark like creative. It's almost like a creative constraint that like makes it easier. Like if you're the last person that's like doing stuff, it's overall a good thing. Even if you are like the best coder or whatever it is that you're doing.
I always do that, especially if it's kind of in paper format. If it's an essay or written type format, I go, so I'm a professional in the written word, and I'm like, I can, so why don't you let me see it last and I'll edit it.
Yeah.
I have those skills.
I'm weird with writing though. Like I have a certain flow to my writing that typically if I have to like I just want to like reword an entire paragraph and like move all the sentences around and like and like rewrite sections of it. Like
I do this sometimes. It's like, some of the people are pretty good writers, but then there's a lot of people. I kind of had this hope, like I'm like grad school. I'm like, it'll be better. Right? Like it'll be different.
It never gets better. This is the thing. It's like certain people are good at certain things, they can compensate for their like weaknesses and stuff, but in the end, like the kind of like level of competency that you've experienced in college is like kind of like how it is everywhere. Like I had this weird kind of realization, like when I started to realize that some of my professors were really just like faking like everything that they were doing, or like not nearly as knowledgeable about the subject as they were. They've just taught the class like so many years in a row that they've just like memorized the material for the class, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm not aware. It's just like I remember thinking like, but you get that like sprinkling of hope. You're like, all right, let's be optimistic here.
But
in
a way, it's kind of like a relief, right? Because it's just like I'm free to, my shackles are free. I can go out and be awesome because I know I'm going to be better at this shit than like the majority of people, or like whatever.
Yeah. It was kind of like, yeah, I kind of got that because the first semester, like I kind of got thrown in and like I hadn't coded in 3 years and I took several classes and one of them was a really hard class and I did fine. And then after a couple semesters, like I got a like exemplary assignment, like they highlight assignments like out of a class of like 400, like they picked like 8 people to like highlight their final projects and they picked mine. I'm like, okay. And then rolling on, I'm like, and then you see the people complaining, and like not getting stuff. And then eventually you get around, you're like, all right, I am smart. I'm still smart. I wasn't wrong, which is always nice.
See, one thing
like,
that's
sad and nice. You're like, but it's like, it's really sad to see that. Yeah. But it's also nice, I guess, to, roll with that.
It seems like in your position that you're able to like, if shit hits the fan, like, you can basically just like take over and do everything, like to an extent. But like I've been running into this problem with my research where like, because it's like physical research, not just like using computers or whatever. And it's like all, you have to like get the reagents and you got to like have things organized. You got to have people to actually like put in the man hours to like do all this, that I'm finding myself like, I've really got to think a lot more intelligently about like who we have in the team, like how to manage them, all this other kind of stuff, which is part of the reason why I've been in this like typology like group or whatever here talking about all this. Like, and it was like when I met with my research advisor, something I was just like, listen, like she's an intuitive type, like really big picture. I think she might be an INTP. But she and I both like as a consequence like can't pin things down. Like we don't have anyone that's like an organized task, like a task oriented person to just do the mundane shit. Here we are like theorizing about like, oh, if we get the DNA to hybridize in this way and then we can self-assemble it and and like and there's some people it's like, can I are you guys going to do anything? Like so like I'm looking for someone that would be task oriented. Like they have to be intelligent to understand more or less like what's being done, but like they don't need to like have this like intuitive understanding of everything. If anything, it would be like a hindrance to have too many people like that on the team, because like then everyone is like has this like own intuitive, vision about what's happening, and there's like miscommunications, and no one's like doing anything either. It's like terrible. So
yeah, no, it's good to have some so that you can, so that not everybody's just like, what are you going on about?
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, you need to have like the support of like other people being like, if it's not just like, oh, I'm the like, it helps when I have a professor who's like, oh, he's in charge, but if it's like where you have to build confidence within the group, like, yeah, definitely. You have to have other intuitive types so they can back you up, right? Like,
so like, yeah, that sounds cool. What about that? But yeah, no. Yeah, the big, it's always, even with like coding and stuff, I mean, because you get like, all right, we have a project, it has code and it has to interact and we're building an app or whatever, and it's like, okay, you have to make this thing work.
If only you had like some kind of specialist that could go around and like hover over everyone doing their code and annotate it for everyone. Wouldn't that be nice? Like
yeah. Is divide stuff into works as like this piece, like you need to figure out how to, you're going to set up and send us functions to access the database. Here's what we need to put in and take out of the database. And so all you have to do is like make this work. And we'll build all our stuff so that we're ready to, hook into these functions. And then, I remember getting it and it's like, well, none of this works. And you didn't give me functions for all of these obviously necessary data storage things. At that point, it's like, well, I don't have time to go learn the database stuff.
Right.
Like, that was your job. That was your small job.
I've also noticed that, like, in a school environment, and it's like students, like, do you work with other graduate students or like undergraduates when you doing?
No, I work with other grad students.
Oh, well, I mean, in general, at least, like, I don't know as much what the grad school vibe is like, just because I've been doing research where they don't have a graduate program, right? But people just, there's a sense of like non-responsibility in academic environments where it's like, what's the worst that'll happen if I don't do this? Like, unless it's like your graduation requirement or something, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many people that are like, well, I'm here to get, a B or a C or whatever, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Or I think there's people that are just like, well, I've got 2 other classes and this one isn't that big of a deal and I'm probably going to pass and I've already got 3 other people on the team. So if I never show up to the team meetings, I wonder what goes, like, I've got one team member that's never communicated with me since, like, when we got assigned the team, I think they were in communication, but since then, no.
Yeah. See, like, I
We're gonna have to do their.
Outside of a class environment, you have the luxury of people that are actually passionate about your project, like, joining up, typically. Like, if it's like a research project that's not a class requirement. But yeah, class requirements especially are, like, bad for having everybody, like, contribute.
Yeah. Well, I went in and, like, I hedged my bets because it didn't take much effort, but we more or less got to build off of, we're doing a second iteration of a cycle that we went through individually earlier in the semester of a design cycle. So it's like, okay, basically the obvious choice is to pick one of our projects and do a second iteration. And so I convinced them, didn't really have to try and to use my project. So at least I get some good out of going over a second iteration. And it means that a lot of the stuff I did for the first iteration, which I know was really good, like I didn't have any issues with the grades on the first iteration, I can pull a lot of text and and bits and pieces out of that for the group project paper.
Yeah, this is something I've started to realize, like, so I kind of tried, so last semester, it was like the first time I had an opportunity to, like, write a grant, like a real grant. And basically it was like I was writing the grant for my, so since my research advisor's primary language is Chinese and not English, like, I can tell, like, she won't admit it, but, like, she needs us to write this, right? In order to get funding, because, like, she doesn't have a good mastery of the English language. And, like, it's so important to, like, document everything you're doing in the research, because, like, I basically just, like, bombed it, like my first grant process. Like, I procrastinated way too much. Like, I couldn't get other people to, like, work on it with me. It was just, like, overwhelming amount of, like, stuff to do, and all this kind of thing. And I've realized, like, how important it is to document everything, like, do, like, a literature review first before you even apply for funding, so that you can, because then you can just pull everything from your literature review and basically just, like, copy and paste everything over it, and then it's, like, easy,
Right.
It's like and it sounds similar to what you're talking about. Like, you can just take some old thing and then just, do as much work as you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this, like the whole thing and the details of the project and what it's going on, it's all already in my head. I've already written a bunch of stuff about it. So,
yeah.
And the final deliverable is only a paper, which also in the end means that if I have to, when you're writing a paper, the point of the class isn't to show necessarily a final product. It's to show a paper that shows that you understand the process. So whether we actually do things or not is not necessarily relevant, as long as the paper conveys the right thoughts in the end.
Right,
so,
right.
You're like, well, I had 3 people answer my survey, but but here's why my survey was designed the way it is, and here's all this other proper thoughts on the matter, and throw in the right buzzwords, and everything's fine. You know, you're like, I mean, like literally this class, I could have sat down at the beginning of the class, and if knowing this stuff, like I could have gone through all this stuff, and I basically could have like made up everything, all the assignments, because they're all just paper reports. And I could have like made imaginary,
just invented everything. Yeah.
I could have invented the whole thing, and it would have been fine. But
see, I'm finding that, you know, in this like actual research environment, like requires so much more planning and foresight than like anything else I've ever done in my life. And it's like,
right.
And it's really kind of, that's not me at all, you know, like setting out these, like I think about all these kind of things, but I don't really like, you know, do this like long-term like planning but I like commit to long-term plans, right? I do like, you know, I have these long-term plans and stuff, but it's always kind of just like a procrastination thing more than anything else. But like now I have to think about things like, you know, I have to recognize the ebb and flow of funding and stuff like that. And it's like when you're on low funding, you want to do literature review and like build up like, you know, proof that like basically you're accumulating all this knowledge so then you can get money to demonstrate that you're going to have a good project, and then you have funds, and then you do like the physical research, and then the funds dry up, and then you have to cycle back. And it's like if you mess up like by like a month or so or whatever, there's just like a month where like nothing gets done, like if you haven't been planning properly, you know. It's like I need like, so I was telling my research advisor, like, keep an eye out for somebody who's not an intuitive, not as big picture, someone who is task oriented, intelligent, but task oriented, and, you know, like organization oriented, because this is what we need more than anything.
It sounds like you need like a good, you know, like ISTJ or something.
Right, but we need one that is not going to get like pissed off by all the intuitives is the thing, which is hard, I've noticed, because like I'm getting better about not getting pissed off at them because like I need them so badly, and I like understand that they just like don't have that same cognitive process, you know. Yeah. But you know, for them, since they're not like an intuitive type, like they're not going to have that kind of realization. So
right.
So it's kind of like this catch-22, you know. Yeah,
the nature of their problem is that they won't admit that, you know, the difference. Yeah.
Right.
Both got problems, but only I admit that we both have problems.
Right.
That's all we're going to agree on. Yeah, no, it'd be cool to get into do some research stuff someday. There was like no research at the school I went to, so it was like, it's actually kind of a pain because I got like recommended for some, you know, like nomination only scholarships and fun stuff like that. But then they wanted a paper on your research, and it was always been, I'm like, well, I don't do any official research. I have all kinds of like cool little research projects at home.
Yeah.
And they also don't like research that is, or, you know, theories that aren't being super, like they don't appreciate, for better word, they don't appreciate an undergraduate who's like, well, I've been contemplating this design for ion propulsion, you know, different ion technique for ion propulsion for like for years. Yeah. You know, I haven't built an example of it yet, but I've done a lot of research on this. And so that's what I ended up writing my paper, because I had several people tell me, you know, like I went to the one physics professor, somebody's like, well, go talk to him and get his recommendation.
Yeah.
And I told him my ideas, like, you know, get him to help vet your, you know, your physics. And he's like, and he basically told me, he's like, you don't know anything, do something that you actually know about. And he like found out that I had like had a ham radio license. He's like, well, do something with that. I'm like, that's super boring. I'm like, and I don't know anything about it.
He's giving you this like practical advice rather than like, let's work with you on what you want to do here.
Basically like, yeah, it was basically like, don't talk about something that you're not actually an expert in already. And you're like, well,
it's like, I'm a fucking undergraduate. Fuck you. Like,
yeah, basically like anyway, I'd hoped, you know, I was like, oh yeah, reason to go, you know, meet the physics professor. And it's like,
it's a bummer that didn't work out well for you, because like physics is fun. You just got to find like non-asshole physicists
Yeah,
You know.
there was one, and so that was the one reason one time I got to, and I basically just blew everybody out and I said, look, you guys all have dumb, boring ideas, and quit telling me to do some, like, nobody's gonna win this big scholarship on a paper about ham radio. Like, it's like, I don't have any official research experience. I go to school in a small town, and we have a biology department that's doing research. And
I had the exact opposite thing. So I was taking a scientific writing class, and the head of the physics department was teaching it, right? And I wanted to write about like this like molecular self-assembly stuff, but it was like such an advanced topic that like I really like it was one of the first times in my life where like oh shit, like I can't just fucking write this. It's like this isn't easy anymore. Like so much of my life had just been like I can put off an assignment until the night before and then just like do the whole fucking thing and get an A, like if I want to, you know. And in this case, you know, and instead of being like, oh, you know, you should reformat, you know, you should talk about something that you know more about, and like all the, instead she was like, oh, I like what you're interested in, what you're trying to do here. Let me send you some research articles so you can become more informed. I was, you know, which is like sounds like the exact opposite of your problem, where they were just like, you don't know shit, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah. I ran into that problem. Like it started in, what was I? I guess I was technically I was like 9th grade or whatever. Because I entered the regional science fair. I decided that would be cool.
Yeah.
And I entered the senior division because you could choose at that age or whatever. And I entered the physics category, and I did a project on ion propulsion and comparing. It was focused on like a specific impulse.
Oh, you just got so
like
robotic.
conventional.
I didn't hear what your research topic was.
Okay.
Welcome back.
All right, better?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did a thing on more or less comparing the specific impulse and, you know, efficiency of ion type propulsion versus conventional propulsion. And so I got with my dad and we built these nozzles, these stainless steel nozzles on the lathe and stuff. And then I did like CO2, and then I'd like measure the thrust and the duration and did different things, and it was pretty fun. But anyway, like, and so I did this thing, and I didn't, you know, I got in trouble for like, oh, you didn't, you know, do the proper this or that. But anyway, I knew my stuff, and
it was kind of like a technicality formatting thing or something like that.
Yeah, like I got a couple of things off, but like nobody actually cared about that because I knew my stuff.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. But anyway, it was pretty cool. And then they had these 3 like grad students in physics or something that were the judges. And they came by, and I remember they came by and I talked to them, and then they went away thinking I was wrong, and I was sitting there going, okay, I can't figure out why that, you know, what. Anyway, and then I figured it out here in a minute. And I go, oh, it's a vocabulary thing. They're confusing specific impulse with traditional impulse, which are 2 different things. And so I went and chased them down and brought them back and explained it to them. And then the second explanation, 2 of them thought I was brilliant, and the other one finally said, I don't know if you're right, and was kind of didn't like me because he didn't like a little podunk, you know.
People get really. I've noticed this about, like, I've experienced this so much, and like for a long time I didn't realize